All right, folks, hello and welcome back to Online English Class. Hope you guys are doing well today. Today we're going to be working through OTN 4, looking specifically at the rising action of Marlow's journey in pages 68 to 83, where he is experiencing and describing his experiences in the central station, not the central steamer, the central station. Okay, so it's a misprint. We're going to look specifically at this point today, Marlow's relationship with the brickmaker. Okay, certainly not one of Marlow's friends, right? Actually, the brickmaker ends up threatening Marlow's life because the brickmaker believes that Marlow is going to steal his appointment as assistant to the manager when Kurtz inevitably becomes manager. But they have a relationship nonetheless, and that relationship helps illustrate something significant about Marlow's understanding of himself. As he is increasingly, investigating the heart of the world that he lives in, and the heart that is beating inside his own chest, and the hearts of the men around him. Okay, whether or not there is truly an idea, a truth at the back of his life, okay, that he can live for. Okay, before we do that, let's quickly run through the top of the week announcements. Okay, you need to make sure that you are continuing your discussion grade procedure, making sure you leave a comment on each daily video with an insightful question, a concise summary, or a thoughtful reflection on what was discussed. Okay. You need to continue reading Part 2 of Heart of Darkness throughout the course of this week. Continue completing your OTNs as we complete them in class, all right? So we'll be working on OTN 4 today. You should have already finished OTN 3 earlier. And you need to continue the drafting process for quarter 4, all right? Right now we're pretty focused on finishing up Heart of Darkness, but we will be turning our attention back to that essay before the year closes down, all right? So Canterbury Tales is not gone quite yet. Okay, you should keep that on your burner. Okay, so let's turn our attention to OTN 4, looking specifically at the ways in which Marlow describes his experiences in the central station and what that means about his pilgrimage. Okay, so the first element that we're going to talk about is his relationship with the brickmaker. Okay, so he develops this relationship with the brickmaker in the central station, all right? So very similar to Dante's Inferno, Marlow's pilgrimage sort of gets deeper and deeper as he grows closer and closer to the inner truth or the heart of the reality that he is driving toward. Okay, obviously the inner truth is that for the pilgrim in Inferno is that he has betrayed God like Satan, and when he confesses that, right, when he repents of that action, when he grows to hate his own sin and turn his affections back toward loving the God that he was made to love, okay, everything turns upside down, right? His movement downward begins to be a movement upward. There is hope. There is life promised at the end, light at the end of the dark journey. Okay, Marlow, much in the same way, is growing closer and closer to a kind of hidden inner truth that is waiting for him at the inner station. Okay. And so in the outer station, right, he was confronted with what? Well, he was confronted with the moral incomprehensibility of the Belgian Congo Company's endeavors, as they sort of claim out loud, publicly, what we are doing is in the best interest of the colonized and also us, the colonizers. It is a mutually beneficial relationship in which we are teaching these savage individuals how to be civil, and we're going to improve their lives. All right, so that's obviously what is said out loud. And if that were true, okay, if that were completely true, and it was a consensual arrangement between colonizer and colonized, then you could argue that it would be a morally comprehensible, although perhaps contentious, indeed contentious, all right, just because of freedom and other kinds of issues such as that, all right, but it would at least be morally comprehensible. All right, what Marlow sees is something that is not comprehensible. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't align, not only with what they're saying, but it just doesn't align up with any kind of moral ideals in general. Okay, millions of Africans are dying so that a few Belgian individuals can make money in the ivory trade. That is not a trade that any moral system, except for abject materialism, can support. Okay? If there is any kind of belief in the inherent dignity or value of human life, which is sort of the essence of any kind of moral code, all right, any kind of notion of how to treat a person right, starts with the belief that that person deserves to be treated rightly. Okay, obviously, the Congo company, the Belgian Congo company, is not behaving in a way that is comprehensible. But in the central station, right, Marlow's understanding of the significance of what is unfolding around him is going to deepen. He's not just going to see; he's going to be confronted with the reality that not only is the Belgian Congo bad guys, but that he is also complicit, all right, in their badness, and also, right, that he himself is capable of misjudging the world. All right, so let's talk about Marlow's relationship with the brickmaker and how his relationship with the brickmaker helps make this point clear to Marlow. I'm going to start with an assertion, okay, a kind of interpretive assertion, and then we'll bear it out with textual analysis. Marlow's relationship with the brickmaker deepens and expands Marlow's understanding of the brokenness of the Belgian Congo Company's colonial efforts, and more troublingly, the difficulty of perceiving and accurately judging reality itself. Okay, so in other words, what Marlow is confronted with in the central station, this is a bit complex, so stick with me, is not only that these guys are bad, but that he, as a judge, someone who is capable of understanding and accurately perceiving that which is good and that which is bad, that he is incapable of accurately perceiving those things because he is an inhabitant of a world that is capable of fraud, okay? The sin that makes the whole world stink, right? That undermines our notions of reality. Again, that's Dante's language, okay? So this not only deconstructs Marlow's justification of the company's work, okay, because it's definitely not just, solidifying our earlier impressions that their work is morally incomprehensible, but also calls into question any pilgrims, including yours, Conrad would say. And I would actually agree. It calls into question any pilgrim's ability to arrive by themselves at stable, reliable judgments of his or her world. Why? Because they, right, are their perceptions, their understandings of reality, okay, are very much like the environment in which they live, broken. Okay, so they're busted individuals living in a busted world, trying to understand truth, wholly, truly, that the math just doesn't add up, okay? So the fact that the latter is more troubling to Marlow in the long run than the former. The fact that there are bad guys out there, okay, that's troubling, but that's also something we can fix, right? The good guys can fix and fight the bad guys. But what Marlow is increasingly troubled by is the fact that his notions of good and his notions of bad, his definitions of the bad guys and his definitions of the good guys, all right, are capable of being wrong, okay? His judgments are capable of being incorrect. Now, the way that he articulates this in his narrative, okay, is by describing his relationship with the brickmaker, okay, which undermines Marlow's, or at least allows Marlow to think about the ways in which language is not a stable system for articulating truth, which is a big problem. Because what's the purpose of words? What is the purpose of language? Why did, if you believe in a God, why did God give language to human beings? If you don't believe in a God, why do humans have language? Right? That's a burning question that people thoughtful people have thought about for a long time. What's the purpose of language? What's its function? Well, on its most basic level, words are supposed to help you perceive and judge reality, to help you understand what is really good and really bad, to help give you knowledge of the environment that you live in that is reliable, and then to help you build beliefs about that environment that are also based on true assertions or true observations. Okay? Well, Marlow, increasingly in the central station, is troubled by the fact that everywhere around him he sees deception. He sees words being used, all right, not only to deceive other individuals, but just inaccurately, right? So think about the brickmaker's name. In and of itself, it is deceptive. The brickmaker, as noted by Marlow on the bottom of page 73, doesn't lay or make any bricks. He doesn't do the work that his name implies that he does. This illustrates a sort of deeper reality about language itself. It can misname things. All right? Not only can a man who doesn't lay bricks or make bricks be called a brickmaker, so too something that is bad and wicked can it be called good and righteous. And so too can something that is wicked, all right, be called good. All right? And vice versa to infinity and beyond. Okay? And what this makes Marlow think about is not only the fact that the brickmaker is kind of unreal, which is not to say like unreal like great, like, oh, that pizza was unreal. It is to say unreal as in untrue or not aligned with reality. Okay, so Marlow says the brickmaker was unreal. He was a kind of phantasm, right? And also all the other men at the central station were sort of equally engaged in efforts, in work that he begins to call unreal. All right, it was as unreal. The brickmaker's title, all of their backbiting and conflicts and work and deception. It was what Marlow says as unreal as everything else, as the philanthropic pretense of the whole concern, as their talk, as their government, as their show of work. Okay? The only real feeling was a desire to get appointed, okay, to get richer, to get more powerful. That was the only real feeling. Everything else was unreal. Everything else was untrue. Okay? So, much in the same way, all right, that the brickmaker's name is unreal, so too the work of everyone in the central station is unreal. Right? Now that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It means that it is called names. It is understood to be and believed to be things that are not true, that do not reflect reality. And, okay, more troublingly still, language as a tool can be used to name things not as they are, okay, but as they aren't, as they are not, okay, which is really troubling, because language as a tool is the primary device that we do what with? That we attempt to understand and make meaning of our environments. It's how we name things, call things around us, and therefore create and cultivate judgments, okay? Now, if that process is undermined, if it's compromised, if we can be misled, all right, it means that Marlow's judgments of the quote-unquote sacred fire, that thing that he's living for, that idea, that truth that he wants to discover, in other words, understand in his brain, name, okay, like understand, name, and then live for, that he is capable, all right, not only of not finding it, and not only of not obeying it, but not, or misjudging it, right? Does that make sense? Of misjudging it, of misunderstanding it, all right? So a great analogy for the kind of brokenness that Marlow is being exposed to is the same kind of tension that Christians have when they approach the Bible, all right? So if we were exactly as we ought to be, if our brains understood and apprehended reality, and words, okay, were stable forms of communicating that reality to us as human beings, all right, then all you would need to know about God and life, all you would need to do is open up the Bible, apart from the Holy Spirit, apart from all divine intervention, you, using your reliable brain and those reliable words, could read the Bible and know everything you needed to know about God. No divine intervention needed. All right? But that's not how it works. Right? If you haven't noticed, people all over history have read the Bible and they've said with full conviction that it means stuff other than what another person said. Okay? Think about like Martin Luther in the Reformation. Read the scriptures, came to radically different conclusions about what they meant than the existing priest or clergy of the Roman Catholic tradition. And therefore, that changed their conceptions of reality completely. All right? It changed everything about the way that they viewed how church should be done, how life should be lived, how government should be structured. Everything was changed, all right, according to their reading and understanding of those words. And you see, okay, if those words are indeed meaningful, as all Christians would assert that they are, there is some truth in there, but that truth is capable of being misunderstood and has been misunderstood continually throughout the ages. It means that you certainly are subject to those same kinds of misunderstandings, and when left to your own devices, that your understanding of God may very well be unreal, be untrue when you get done reading those words with your broken brain. That's why, listen, all right, any preacher worth his salt, any Bible teacher worth his salt, any Christian tradition worth their salt prays prior to the reading and interpretation and engagement with the scriptures that the Holy Spirit, a divine outside force, would come and illuminate your mind to make those words make sense, because the humble reader of the scriptures understands that their notions of the reality of who God is contingent on his revelation to them, not on their own brains. Now listen, Marlow, as a modern man, has already articulated for us back in part 1 that he don't believe in no Holy Spirit coming and making sense of the world for him. If he's going to make sense of the tapestry of his life, he, as indicated by his allusion to the three fates, he is going to have to sew it into something, or weave it or thread it into something meaningful. All right, that's very similar to the modern man who rejects notions of divine or supernatural intervention making meaning for us. Now, here's the problem. If it's up to us to make meaning of our environment, but the language, the raw material of our thinking, that is the basis of our perceptions of that environment, are duplicitous and capable of being misunderstood, then so too our notions of that reality, which we are created, which we are inborn desirous of knowing. Right? We're pilgrims by nature. We want to know the truth. We want to live, quote, moral lives. We want moral coherency. Okay? But when left to ourselves, Marlow is beginning to recognize our understanding, our judgments, not only our actions, but our judgments of the good are capable of being untrue. Okay? Are capable of being, like the brickmaker, misnamed. Yikes. Okay? Marlow solidifies this impression, last point here, okay, before we sign off. Okay, it's kind of a short but packed lecture today. Marlow says, "You know, I hate, detest, and can't bear a lie. Not because I'm straighter than the rest of us," which just means not because of some kind of moral pretense. I don't hate lying just because my mommy told me not to when I was a kid, but because it appalls me. Appalls means disgust, or sort of inspires fear in, right? There's a taint of death in a lie, says Marlow. So this is a figure of speech. A flavor of mortality in lies, which is exactly what I hate and detest in the world, what I want to forget. It makes me miserable and sick, like biting something rotten would do. Marlow says he hates lies because he recognizes that when an individual lies, all right, what they do is they misrepresent reality. They kill reality. And they kill the ability, okay, they kill our faith, our trust in language's ability to reflect that reality consistently. And if it doesn't reflect reality consistently, then we cannot be sure. We cannot claim to know much of anything. Our worldviews die. Our beliefs die. Knowledge dies. We collapse into relativism. This Marlow detests. This Marlow claims, ready, claims to hate. But, check this out, then, okay, he confesses that he manipulates and deceives the brickmaker. He allows the brickmaker to believe that Marlow is not who Marlow truly is. He allows the brickmaker to think that Marlow is an important, high-up individual with connections back in Brussels, who's powerful and ought to be feared. Why does he do that? Well, he says, he kind of equivocates and says, well, I thought I was helping Kurtz out. But he doesn't really know. And the fact that he engages in something that he claims to hate means that he does not hate the action that he undertakes. He is, at best, indifferent, and at worst, likes lying. This illustrates Marlow's ability, like the brickmaker, and like all the other pilgrims in the central station, to be other than they are, or to seem other than they are, to, okay, in Dante, to commit fraud, the sin that makes the whole world stink. Canto 17, the sin that undermines our trust, not only in each other, but significantly in ourselves. All right, that's all that we have for today. Tomorrow we'll be finishing up OTN 4, all right, as we continue to unpack the significance of Marlow's pilgrimage into the heart of darkness. Have a great day.